voting machines entirely, but that's in the process. There's going to be an ordinance coming that gets rid of the voting machines altogether. One of the concerns that the borough clerk had was that she was going to have a hard time finding people to count ballots. Well, I already gave her a list of 70 people. So we're starting a new list, and hopefully we're going to get like 200 or 300 people. The idea basically is just to show the support that the borough, the direction the borough is making to do a hand count. So you might not get called, you probably won't get called, but at least you're showing your support. And if you do get called and it's not something you can do, you can decline to do it. There'll be plenty of people on the list to jump in. It's for 8 p.m. after the polls close to probably midnight or something. So it's a late night type of deal. Also, I got some forms here. If you would like to be an election worker, we got a form here that you can sign up and be an election worker. So these will be on the table over here, and I'll pass around the sign. Thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Loussac.
Okay,
Make sure you like
so
to
at
share.
this time, we're going to go ahead and just kick this off. We've got a limited amount of time. So I'm going to ask all of your municipal candidates to come up to the front, please, and pick your seat.
I'm going to sit over here.
All right, everybody, please like and share this video. If you haven't done that yet, please take a moment and do it now. If you are in the Palmer Wasilla area and you want to know who's going to be sitting on your city council possibly, this is one forum for you. Again, please like and share.
You'll be just fine.
Here we go.
All right, are we ready? Do we have everybody's attention? All right, we're going to kick this off. So I'd like for everybody to take at least 2 minutes to discuss your platform, why you're running, and all of that good stuff so that we can get to know you and your platform.
Sure. Oh, he's got a mic already.
You want to go first?
You're
No,
just
go.
gonna
You're
pass it
gonna
off.
have the mic already.
Yeah, sounds good. Hello, my name is Josh Shooter. I am currently running for Palmer City Council for the 3-year term seat, and one of them. And the reason why I'm running is because I was seeing the direction Palmer was going. We had a city council that was, we had some members on there that were trying to do things that I thought were impeding personal liberties. We had a city council where people had to stand in a large line around the city hall to make their voice heard to speak up against it. And I always think that, not to say anything bad about city council, but I always thought city council should be relatively boring. And it should be something where things are done normally. I'm a business owner, and I always look at things from that perspective. And so, my thought is city council should be like a business manager where, as a taxpayer, you are a part owner of that. And it should be one of those things where when you have a good manager in a business, you shouldn't be having to have a, oh my gosh, hair is on fire, or this emergency kind of thing. It should be business as usual, how am I doing with my investment kind of thing. And that's what city government should be as well. It should be well run, fiscally conservative. It should be something where they stay in their lane. City should focus on making sure the streets are safe, well paved, things like that. Make sure we have police protection, make sure that it stays small. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because I just want to make sure that the city government stays in its lane, so to speak. We have some issues we're facing, like the vagrancy issue and things like that. And I'm a dad, I have 3 kids. And my oldest daughter is 16 now, and she's starting to work and do more stuff out there. And it makes me nervous seeing some of the issues going on. I want to make sure that my kids are safe. And I want to make sure that the city is able to meet the needs of young people, that we're able to, by maintaining a small government, be able to attract businesses in the area, make sure that Palmer continues to grow, and make sure that it's a tax-friendly environment, that we're not trying to suck money out of businesses, and make sure that they essentially stay in their lane and make sure that things run well. So that's pretty much my platform is making sure that the government stays small, making sure that it stays safe, making sure that people can look at city government and go, that's how government should be, instead of looking at it trying to be some kind of, social justice kind of enterprise, which I don't think it should be. So that's pretty much my plan.
Thank you, Josh.
My name is Ian Crafton. I think I've met most of you before. I've been here a few times now. I am running for Wasilla City Council seat E, and kind of what I thought about as I started running for this was I wanted to see growth. Wasilla has been my home now for 20 years, and has it grown? Yes, but we haven't really seen this huge expansion in the form of new things. So one of the big ones I'm looking for is what can we do to bring more business in here, whether it's small businesses or big businesses. I don't know about you, I'm tired of going into Anchorage and giving them my money. I'd like to keep my money out here with our family, the people that are in the valley here. The second one is our road systems here. I think the biggest complaint, being a real estate agent here, not only of myself driving around hundreds of thousands of miles per year, but also just other people that I've helped move out here, is our road systems, whether it be the sand on the roads rocks not getting cleaned up in time, or it's the potholes that are being created from roads not being maintained, and then overall just the expansion of our roads to alleviate the burden that we've taken on of traffic in here. We're the major throughput from the north to the south of Alaska here, and so I'd like to see what we can do to work on making that change happen and expanding Wasilla into a place that we all love to spend our time and not go elsewhere. Lastly is, again, going into spending time here is our activities. I'd like to see what we can do about expanding our more so recreational winter activities. I think we have plenty to do here in the summertime, but being somebody that has a growing family, there's not a lot always for me to do locally to take children to, whether it's my own kids or taking on my friends' kids and taking them places. So where I'm exploring some options and hoping to reopen some conversations around options that we have available for us here out in the valley. So.
Perfect. So I just want to remind go ahead. Go ahead, sorry. I just want to remind the candidates that you're not required to sit. Those chairs are just there just for you. So if you feel like you need to get up and walk around, that is not a problem. So thank you.
Start pacing back and forth.
Hi, I'm Nikki Vlock, and I'm running for re-election for the Wasilla City Council. And I have lived in Wasilla, my entire adult life. I've lived in the city of Wasilla for over 30 years in the same house. And I've raised my kids here, we're raising grandkids here, and this is our home. And we've all seen how progressives are kind of voting in and coming in Alaska, and we've been very fortunate in Wasilla. I think we have a pretty conservative council right now, and we're very fiscally responsible. And my background, I worked at MTA for 30 years in senior management. I actually managed all those stores you see from Eagle River, Palmer, Wasilla, and those were union folk. And the city, we have union folk and union contracts, and I'm very experienced with managing union and union contracts and multi-million-dollar budgets where every dollar is scrutinized, and your job depends on how well you are administering your budget. And so I do bring a lot of knowledge, I think, and skill there. I was on the Wasilla City Planning Commission for a year before I was elected to the council. And so I had a year there. I've had 3 years on the council. During my term, we became debt-free. We paved 22 roads. We gave away, distributed over $5 million in the federal CARES Act money. And we've worked very hard. I think we've been very diligent. Every dollar we spend is scrutinized. We want we want Wasilla to stay Wasilla, you know, like the mayor has even said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. We've done very well, we'll continue to do really well, and that's where I see it. Thank you.
Richard Best. I'm running for Palmer City Council. We've got a 1-year seat that we're running for right now. We currently have 5 seats on Palmer City Council that is being ran for. Most recently, because of the efforts of many members of this group and the citizens of Palmer to hold accountable the council members in Palmer that had broken the Open Meetings Act. And that's something very important because when you start thinking about municipal governments, we hope that the scrutiny is being watched by the state, but it's really the citizens that have to be very vigilant and mindful, much like down on the Kenai Peninsula where they have a situation that's been going on. So just be mindful of things that are going on in the state. Very conservative Republican. I've been involved in politics for quite a while. 25 years of engineering experience and been chief of staff for Representative Ben Carpenter. If any of you have followed along with the state politics, you'll know that he's very conservative, and I carry many of the same ideals. I look forward to many more years of Josh being on city council because he brings a new perspective. We've got local businesses that are being very mindful of what your government is doing. And so I really appreciate those that are setting up.
Thank you. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and jump into these questions. I do have a list of 10 questions. I was going to mix these up, but it looks like a couple of the attendees were not able to make it tonight. So I may still throw a sidewinder and mix them up. We'll see. So question, I'll allow you to go with it because since you have the microphone, you might as well go first. Okay. Okay. Do you think your Main Street downtown is healthy and successful? And if not, what do you do to change that? By healthy, we mean vagrancy, parking, speed, and business issues.
Well, our Main Street is pretty congested, and I believe we're bringing in sidewalks for people to walk on, make it more pedestrian friendly. We have our downtown, we're working on having a little main downtown area that is very important to us, that encourages small businesses to come, people to walk around and shop and enjoy their day, maybe have some little Christmas celebrations down there. Vagrancy, I haven't seen it right on Main Street. There is, I know one guy we're all thinking of probably. But we did have somebody come to the council one night from some of the organizations for homeless people and people having issues, and encouraging us to put up signs at different places asking people not to give them money, that and there's numbers and places of organizations where they can get help, and a lot of them are getting help but are still out there panhandling, and to discourage that. So I would do that, and like I said, we're kind of beautifying it. Hopefully that answers your question.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Josh?
Richard?
Yeah, let's go with John.
It's like a hot potato. Yeah, it's kind of a tough question. I would say economically, downtown Palmer is doing really well, and I'm saying that mainly because I got an earful today from one of the business owners that I do IT work, and so we do a lot of consulting with small businesses in Palmer, and so now they talk to me a lot about some of the parking issues they've been dealing with. So that's kind of a good sign. It's a good growing pain kind of issue to have. There's not enough parking, but the vagrancy issue we have affecting the city is pretty serious, and it seems like it's getting worse. So we've been doing a lot as a council to get ahead of that, and I know Pam's been doing a lot of work on that, and so is Richard, and we're all trying to get a good handle on it because it's there's more and more people causing problems coming into town, making it unsafe, which is going to have knock-on effects to the economy. I mean, tourists don't want to deal with that. I was talking with a business owner, it was 2 days ago, about how they feel unsafe and how they're having issues with their staff, and some of them came to city council as well and gave testimony there, and it's just kind of a problem we're trying to deal with within what's now legally allowed is part of the problem, because what used to be done is now considered unconstitutional. So we have some challenges, but overall, economically, I think the downtown's doing pretty well. We just have issues with parking and trying to figure out the central business district, which is kind of a new zoning thing that was put in, and the challenge to come along with that. But the good thing is Palmer's got a lot of growth opportunities coming its way, and it's doing well, and especially after recovering from the pandemic and the lots of tourism that we're starting to recover from is really promising. So I'm glad to see that everyone's working hard out there to make things get better.
Bouncing from Wasilla to Palmer.
I know.
One more time, I just want to make sure I answer all parts of the question. What was the question again?
Sure. Do you think your Main Street downtown is healthy and successful? And if not, what would you do to change that? And by health, we mean vagrancy, parking, speed, and business, just as examples.
Yeah. So if you were at a recent Wasilla City Council meeting and saw we're actually in the process of a pretty large overhaul of the downtown, or more so the Main Street couplet. They're essentially going to make it a one-way direction southbound going into KGB. From some of the people I've started talking to, they don't like the idea of that, but also, not everybody likes change. I think that's more so what people are afraid of. I think for the most part it's fairly healthy, but I think we can always do things to make to cause improvement. One of the concerns that we're seeing is we're not seeing a growth in business here. We're starting to see some places not remodel their buildings. We have a downtown overlay plan. Hi, Steve. And there's been concerns with it. And so I think what we can look at doing is removing some of the requirements on, we want you to look at this specific way, to open up that ability for people to come in. People aren't building in their downtown overlay area as well. Overall, though, again, I think our road system development is a step in the right direction. If you've spent any time at the Knick-Goose Bay and Main Street Parks Highway intersection, it can take 2 or 3 light cycles to get through that area, which is just not how it should be. And so, with the overall overlay, I think we're headed in the right direction there. So I think that answers all aspects of it.
Mm-hmm. It does. Hello, Mr. Mayor.
No question for you.
Mr. Steve Carrington, who is running for mayor of Palmer.
You want me to start with that?
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Steve Carrington. I'm running for mayor, unopposed on the ballot at least.
Fantastic. I have a question for you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Mayor of what?
City of Palmer.
Oh, yeah, City of Palmer. Yeah, like where from?
All right. Do you think your Main Street downtown is healthy and successful? And if not, what would you do to change that? By healthy, we mean vagrancy, business development, parking, speeds, etc.
Healthy is that's a nice word. I think it's decent. I'm not sure I'd call it healthy at this point. We have definitely seen some issues in the last few years with people hanging out. But, and that's something we've done over the years. There's been some economic development in trying to get those businesses to improve, and that's worked to some point, but yeah, we still have some issues to deal with downtown.
Fantastic. I'll ask you to pass that on to Richard.
Same question. I'd like to say that Palmer is healthy. I think if you remember back in the late 80s, early 90s, there was businesses that were all boarded up. Where we are right now, we've gone through a pandemic and we still don't have a lot of businesses boarded up. Now, there's been some propping up, some federal help. There's been a lot of folks eating up a lot of their savings to try to keep their businesses open, trying to do things a little bit differently. Healthy is subjective. I think that we're hungry. I think that's what a lot of Alaska is right now, is hungry.
Okay, all right, thank you. If someone came to you with a proposal to build a new piece of public infrastructure, such as a road, a bridge, or a new city hall, how would you evaluate whether or not the project is worth implementing? You're up.
Oh my goodness. We would have to look at need. Like you said, that's kind of broad. What kind of need would it be? City Hall? That is an old building that we're managing. My kids went to first grade there or something. I think we would take it under advisement. We'd see what they would like, what are the needs, what are the benefits. How are we looking financially? Are we going to pay it forward? And Wasilla likes to do that. We like to have money saved up. That's how we paid for the new police, the new public safety building. And so we don't have debt. So I think I'd look at the need, the benefits, how financially able we're to do that. Would that raise taxes to get that done? Or can we keep the taxes the same? And just really research.
Yeah, I would. That's a good answer. I'd probably say it really depends on definitely the need. It's a core tenet of government to build infrastructure. That's kind of one of the things that governments have done since time immemorial. But it really has to be something that's worthwhile, where it has to generate income and has to do something to either support growth with more people moving to the area or more businesses. There has to be some sort of payout. This is the bottom line. It's a huge expense. It's a taxpayer expense, and we have to be able to show that this investment is worthwhile. So and there's definitely ways around it. Like, for example, is it, if the road's out pretty far away from central town, could it just be a gravel road as opposed to a paved one? It just really depends on the businesses that are using it, what their requirements are, what is the expected revenue generation from this project, because businesses need that infrastructure in order to function well, and that's definitely how we look at it. If it's something like City Hall, that's kind of more of a, it needs to be a pretty extreme need. If the city really grows a lot and there's, you have to be accountable for the money you spend, and so spending money on a nice statue, I'm sure it looks great, but is that a really good use of taxpayer money is the question we have to ask. So I would say that same thing with things like nice buildings and roads, just making sure that basic core things that government should focus on is there first.
Well, in Palmer, I remember going and checking out books from City Hall because that's what the library was. But hopefully we have, it's a dirty word, it's a four-letter word, but a plan in place that, that we can be looking at what do we think we need in the future, and that we're actually trying to identify those things out a few years so that it's not kind of a complete surprise and, hurry up, what do I have in my pocket to do this with? But I guess I like the idea of planning and doing things. Say something like City Hall, that is a hot button topic, so to speak. I'd hesitate to figure out where in the world to put something like a City Hall, much less finance it.
I think it all comes back to how does it benefit our constituents? Is it going to be beneficial and useful to them, whether it be something like a city hall or an expansion of like what I've said in the past about activities? Could we do something like, for instance, our Menard Center here in Wasilla? Was it a benefit to them? Wasilla's been very, very good about, hey, if we needed to step up our sales tax a bit, we dropped it back down as soon as we were done paying for whatever we were paying for at that time. I think it's funny we keep all going back to City Hall, which was mentioned in there. And again, the Wasilla buildings, I mean, it's an old building. There is no other way around that. Though again, it serves its purpose. So if there's no true need for it, I mean, if it was to the point of deterioration and we were having to fix it so much that at that point, hey, is it more beneficial for us to go ahead and just build a new building? Is that more the cost-effective route? Otherwise, if we're looking at road infrastructure, bridges, what is the overall benefit at the end goal of that? Are we making these improvements so that we have more access to businesses, or we're giving our residents a better and safer roadway system? What is, again, the end goal and achievement that's going to be brought about when you look at that plan, whatever it will be?
I can't disagree with anything that's been said, so I don't think that I'm going to bring anything that's going to be a unique perspective. I'm going to move along.
All right. Okay.
I feel like you should go first now.
Yeah.
Give him back the mic.
Nobody wants me to first one.
Boy. Okay. So what is more important to your city right now? Building new homes and commercial space, or rehabbing and using existing storefronts?
Yeah. Go for it.
You know, I think that's a great question. I think that's where a lot of communities are kind of involved right now, where you've got kind of a rebirth of some of the older areas. Like Anchorage kind of got Ship Creek area is kind of an area that's kind of been knocked down for years. I imagine over the next couple of years that's going to be propping up and be a little bit different kind of development. You've got businesses in Palmer that are trying to look to see where they can change how the businesses have been operated on with retail space, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work with the parking. So there comes back to we're going through some of the pains of understanding how you morph into a different municipal area. Residential, we've got a lot of residential properties growing up everywhere. We've got folks that are involved with some of these groups here that are building homes. We've got a lot of call for residential homes. But then now we're getting into kind of an urban sprawl. And so when we start talking about wanting to encourage growth, is that what we all want, is to really have a sprawl? There's a lot of questions to be had here at the borough and the city level.
I was going to say, read that again.
Okay. What is more important to your city right now? Building new homes and commercial space, or rehabbing and using your existing storefronts?
I think Wasilla, we're pretty, like, I think of our business areas, we don't have empty businesses. I believe our businesses are doing well, and I think we even added a lot of new construction this year, didn't we, Mayor? Like 160,000 square feet of businesses this year. I would say we're growing there. Like Palmer, I mean, residential, even where I live, we have subdivisions just going in all around us. It's just really growing, and I think business-wise too, as we test traffic, it's because we're all here, we're all shopping here, we're kind of doing well in both areas.
Well, I would say as a, on city council, I would, because I just don't like government getting too far into that kind of stuff. It was just making sure it's available for businesses if they want to revamp an existing building or if they want to build a new one. I think for businesses, they typically would prefer to build a new building if it's a customer-facing type of business, just because it's more attractive for customers. But I would say for Palmer in particular, just we don't have a lot of space, so it's generally better for businesses to revamp current buildings and use those just so that way they can be in the downtown area, because we just don't have a lot of room outside of city limits. We're kind of a small place geographically, and so it really puts that need to utilize what we already have in the forefront. I think it's definitely telling on that one drag where there's like, you know, a lot of the old colony homes are all owned by businesses, and that's it's the reason for that. But we definitely want to make sure that we have all the avenues open. So if a new developer wants to come and make a new subdivision, yeah, go ahead. If they people want to buy existing places and revamp them, yeah, that's great. You know, we just need to do what we can to lower the barriers for either of those options.
Since I live in Palmer, I can say it's kind of a dense city. We don't have very many miles, square miles of area, but we've been seeing some development happen, you know, in places that have been vacant for decades and decades. So I think that's good. We've seen a little bit of new construction, and we've kind of had both, some residential and some commercial, which I think is good. I want to see us, you know, work towards kind of appropriate growth. I don't think we just need to push the pedal to the metal yet, but I think we need to be looking to how we can grow and grow in a good way that maintains our spirit of Palmer, so to speak.
I'm trying to, I mean, I agree with Nikki with the fact that we really don't have a lot of places where there's older buildings or places where we would need to rehab. Are there some? Always. There's always going to be some. That's part of the nature of small business. You have businesses open, businesses close. We've had a lot of new businesses start up over the last year, really just always happening. And I think whether the city wants to rehab or look at new construction, I think it's who you ask that question to more so. Some people don't want to see that new development happen. Other people do want to see the new development happen. And I think that's where the city has to look at it and go, okay, is there a need for more businesses? Always. And what land do we have available? And do we need to rezone a piece of land to be able to open up that opportunity for a specific type of business to be able to purchase that land and actually make use of the land that we do have available here for new development.
Okay. So speaking of growth, because we know that the valley is growing very, very rapidly, traffic becomes a problem. People are complaining. This is hypothetical. People are complaining.
That's not hypothetical.
Trying to remain neutral here. What do you think about that, and what would you do to mitigate those concerns or change the situation?
I think the hard part about for the city of Wasilla is most of our roads are state maintained and state owned. So our power we're going to do this is somewhat limited. The benefit is that we are a debt-free city. We do have some money. We could, I don't want to just throw spaghetti at the wall type of thing. But what can we do? Can we look at some of the avenues that we have available and start encouraging changes there? I mean, if every single one of us has probably driven through the Parks Highway from Lowe's into the Palmer Wasilla between the hours of 4 and 6 p.m. and it takes you who knows how long to get down there. Yes, somebody said 3 o'clock. Yeah, it starts early, and so that is one of the most important things. I still remember going through. I was going the opposite direction. I was leaving Wasilla, and there was an ambulance with its lights on, sitting in the middle of that traffic, basically for landlocked. They were car locked. They couldn't go anywhere because of how bad that traffic was. I know the state is currently looking at a southern corridor, basically from the Parks Highway to south to about Fairview Loop as an alternate route around Wasilla. I know Stu has expressed some concern with that not being the best option, and I am very much on board with looking at the northern corridor around Wasilla. And I think that's a lot of those conversations we have to have, is saying, hey, we know this city, this is our city. We don't believe that this is a good option. This is the better option. This is where more people are already traveling. And what other changes can we make to our road systems to help improve that overall traffic flow? Because if you go through that time, it's pretty hectic.
Streets. I know we're in the process of paving a street, and it's coming out. And I know one of the things our administration has been working on is getting a light put in, because it's on the it's coming into the Palmer Wasilla, and that's one of those things. And the manager's smart enough to go, we don't know how to run traffic lights very well. Let's talk to the state. And so they're working out whatever, I guess you're not supposed to say drug deals, but some kind of trade-off where the state will actually maintain that light and control of it, and we'll take over some more, probably snow plowing and lights or something, but street lights. But that's where we've got to kick the state in the heels or something a little bit more to deal with DOT and try to come up with things that are appropriate that help with routing traffic and keeping it moving.
Well, I think a lot of it's a difficult question because cities around the country have been trying to figure this out for a long time. It seems like we discovered that adding more lanes doesn't always work. You can look at LA for an example of that. And a lot of it comes to having areas where you can take alternate routes. Really helps, having those, like, for example, Mayor Carrington, you mentioned the Felton and Wasilla Highway is a good example of that. To help reroute traffic, because we got some spots like Arctic Avenue that get really rough around, for Palm Pines, but it gets really congested around that, around rush hour for us. And everyone grown. I'm a roundabout guy, so I love roundabouts. I think they help. I know nobody ever agrees with me on that, but
Easy.
Yeah, but I think just things like that can help keep traffic flowing and having alternate routes. So when people go, oh, it's 5 o'clock, I got to find a different route, that they can take those. And of course, working with the state, as many people have said, just because a lot of the roads are state roads, it makes it a little more difficult for us. But doing traffic surveys and finding out where the pressure points are on the traffic flow and working to find alternate routes around.
Yeah, and I agree with not everybody, but I think synchronize. I did talk to DOT one day because it's like, you can go through Anchorage and you hit all those lights, so synchronize. It's like, that's bound to help. Why aren't ours synchronized? Ours are like, sometimes I don't think there's any rhyme or reason. But anyway, I didn't get very far when I talked to them. But what we can probably also maybe do on a local level, like we are paving roads, maybe really start to look at different routes for our residential people to get home at night, and maybe look at bypasses for the businesses. I know businesses don't really like frontage roads and stuff. I think people that pass them by, but I think we can just look at maybe some alternate routes for us who try to get home at night.
Can I get the question again?
People are pretty hot over the growth and they're complaining about traffic. What are you going to do to mitigate it?
Well phrased.
Continue to have lots of conversations, because that's what it's really about. It's about having the conversations, make sure that people are aware of it, getting the input, and going forward with it. Having a plan of action and going forward. It's not always going to be what everybody wants. We had the Eastern Couplet on the Palmer side years ago when they were talking about pushing one-way traffic into Palmer, and then that being kind of a one-way into Palmer. And a lot of people really had a problem with that. We kind of looked at it much more like a sieve. Instead of having one large hose, we wanted to poke lots of holes into it so that people had many different routes to come into Palmer. So different ways of looking at it.
Okay. Quit passing the mic off.
I don't know why she keeps taking it.
It's messing with me.
Back to him.
If elected, what are the 3 steps you would take to put your city on a firmer financial footing? Can you take the mic, please?
I will take the mic. You know, I've been on Palmer City Council for, what are we, at 16 years now? I think that we have had a very pragmatic, measured approach since I've been on there. We really dig into the details of stuff. We make sure that things pencil out first, and we haven't been really big for pie in the sky kind of projects. I think the city of Palmer, under the guidance of Mayor DeVries and others, Mayor Carrington as well, we have always been managing within our means.
Yeah. I'm up. Okay, now 3 top things to make your city more financially.
To put your city on firmer
All
financial
financial. I feel Wasilla is pretty well off financially too. I'm trying to think if there's actually even 3 things. We too really, there's not a lot of, like you said, pie in the sky. When something gets brought up, I mean, the council, we really go over it. Like I said, we managed to get debt free. We're, you know, we have people like from different places, even the airport, who would like us to, you know, just get loans and build that up now, and we're just not really that way. You know, we want to pay for it as we go. So I think we'll just kind of keep going that direction. I think we're doing well in that way.
Yeah, I think Richard Best said it really well. I'm kind of standing on the shoulder of giants since I've been on city council in a short time. You know, with the previous mayor and the city council and the current mayor have all done an amazing job. And things I would focus on is making sure that Palmer stays safe. So we promote tourism, we promote businesses opening up in the city and that they can be successful. Keeping sales tax down, you know, because we don't want to be sitting there with a, you know, 5-6% sales tax and scaring businesses from opening up. And we need to promote investment. I think a big part of that is making sure that city is able to have a very open atmosphere for people to move in from other areas, especially the refugees from Anchorage when they're trying to escape from whatever you're turning into. And you know, and making sure that we focus on the core things. And you know, the city's doing well, and I want to make sure that the city continues to do well by you know, being fiscally responsible. When I first started my business, an investor told me, he said you can't control your income, but you can always control your expenses. I think that's a good thing for anything, including government. You know, we got to make sure expenses stay down so that we have a good firm footing for the future.
Richard and I have this, we've never figured out which one's been on longer, but we've both been on about 16 years on the city council. And I would agree with Richard's comments about we're actually fairly conservative. I tend to think of, when I think of the Palmer City Council and finances, I think of cheap bastards. You know, but I think, and I think another example of that is I heard a representative of actually City of Wasilla today comment about, even though we had COVID, et cetera, that sales tax just kept coming in. And Palmer experienced the same thing, that we, even in the time of COVID, we've been fairly stable. It's been, you know, and I think the biggest thing that we could work on to kind of, I forget the term you said, the 3 steps to keep ourselves financially stable.
Yeah.
One is communication. I know our relationships with businesses, our relationships with other entities is, it might have been a little lacking in the past years. And so whether it's, you know, with the chamber or with other entities, I think we need to work harder on some of those community groups and work harder on communicating and working and planning together.
I think it really is hard to pick 3 things with a city that's already debt-free. It's a matter of keeping it debt-free, but I always go back to growing. If we can continue to grow the valley, or grow Wasilla specifically in businesses so we can draw in more city sales tax. That creates that firmer financial footing foundation. Footing. It creates that, and then again we can just turn and create opportunity for our constituents in different avenues.
Fantastic. So hang on to that mic. I would like for to open this up to you, because it can't just be all about scripted questions. We want to hear from you. Jeez Louise, what you got in that purse, Mayor?
Thank you.
Didn't nobody ever pay you out there?
This question is to both cities, and have a discussion in regards to that. There's an educate me as well as the public guys. One, is there a true planning commission that's on the books that can be modified if necessary for both cities? That being said, with both cities, and the mayor and the person from the planning commission meet with the state and have them work with you as opposed to you work with them. Okay, that's my question.
Could you repeat the question again, please?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, it's just hard to hear since the sound's going that way.
I'll try better. I got Bell's palsy because of the COVID shot, so my whole left face is shot. Once again, this is put to vote. Is a planning commission for each individual city, and the mayor and the planning commission person get together and put something on the books or have a plan for each individual city. That being said, both mayors and a person from the planning committee jointly meet with the state people to have the state work for you as opposed to you with the state.
So just to clarify, you're asking if we would have a planning commission and the mayor and one of the council members meet with the state on a regular basis? Is that what I'm understanding? I mean, I don't see why we couldn't have something like that if we don't already. I mean, again, the state regularly comes to council meetings and usually will offer up basically updates on projects that are being done. But I mean, I see what you're saying, where what you're asking is for the cities to be a bit more proactive in their growth. And that is 100% what I'm always for, is I feel like the government should be as proactive instead of reactive as possible. But always, again, it's a fine line and a fine dance that we try and balance of being overly proactive and overreaching, as that's what we don't want to seem like we are. Does that answer your question?
Does anybody else want to answer that? Or should we move on to the next?
Let Palmer person answer it as well.
Palmer person. And I just came from, we have a monthly meeting between mayors and managers for the MatSu. And I think we're doing fairly well. We keep meeting every month, even though we don't always get along all the time. But, well, mostly it has to do with the potato pole. But anyway, I had to bring that in. But I think we're doing fairly good at talking about upcoming projects and working towards getting resolutions from each other to support each other. And so, yeah, next step would be to start kicking the state a little more.
Hi, I have two questions. There was a lot of pushback from the valley and the cities to the bullying going on when the Braided River business came up. Some of that was linked back to the foundation arm of MatSu Regional Hospital. I'm wondering if you cities are willing to unite and push back to them and kind of rein them in a little bit. And two, I don't know about the property tax structure, how any of that works, but I think it's time for nonprofits to pay their fair share. That's my opinion, and I just want to know what you think about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for the Brady River Festival thing, that was really a lot of fun. Yeah, I would have to say, you know, in relation to that, it's I think we did send a pretty powerful message already, because and I think we need to continue that. I think a lot of it needs to be a grassroots type of thing where folks like you get together and you know, we definitely work with you on that, and it needs to be done. I think that has the most positive impact. You know, if we can say, no, we're not going to stand for that. I mean, we had a recall election, and it was a part of that. I mean, I know it wasn't a city of Palmer thing. It was, but it was. It definitely had a big part of the recall. People stood up. I remember with the Chamber of Commerce, that was a big deal. A lot of people that were involved with that. There was some. I think there was a resignation or two with that. I mean, they listened to those results. And I think when people go, no, we're not going to take this anymore, we need to focus on the core stuff. I mean, you know, to say that Palmer doesn't have a history of its own from being the amazing colony that it was from the 1930s, I believe, in the Great Depression, that's an amazing story. We need to embrace that. And in relation to the other part of the question with the property tax for nonprofits, that's definitely a good point. I would want to see, you know, kind of how would we define nonprofit, because that would also incorporate, you know, churches and things like that. So I want to make sure that what we do is you know, fair to churches as well, in my opinion, you know, because I don't want to see churches get hurt more, because I'm talking to a couple of churches around Palmer, they're scraping by, but, you know, they always need more donations and tithes. And so I want to make sure that I totally understand where you're coming from, that there's a lot of nonprofits that are nonprofits. I work with many of them, and they have a lot of money, and I totally understand that. But I just want to make sure that when we do this, that we do it in a way that's not going to hurt religious institutions.
Anyone else?
One more time, what was the first part of the question you had asked? Braided River, yeah, that's right.
Braided River business, I've sent a lot of people, and there was a lot of pushback. I was wondering if there was any sense of your organizations, your city councils, uniting and sending them a strong message. That's kind of what my note is. And then a property tax for the nonprofits. I think 8,000 nonprofits is a lot of nonprofits that aren't contributing. They're taking, but I don't see them giving back financially, and they're driving on our streets, and they're using our fire departments, et cetera, et cetera.
The aspect of the Braided River situation, I think a lot of that comes down to, one, as council members, we are the representatives of the citizens of our city. And making sure that whenever something like that arises, that we're able to make sure we can make our citizens aware, we can hear their voice, and then we can push back for them if that's what they want. Maybe they don't want to push back. I'm just using that as an example. Yes, they wanted to push back, but not in all situations is something potentially going to be a pushback. Maybe it's just letting people know, hey, this is going to be coming down the pipeline. Are you okay with that? And if you're not okay with it, please speak up so that we know how the overall public feels about that situation. As for nonprofits chipping in their share, we'll say, I hate to ever say more regulations or though what maybe we might need to be looking at is, are some of these nonprofits really nonprofits more so than saying all of them need to chip in? Because
a lobbying group or a PAC.
Yeah. is there are some that really do give back to the community. They don't always financially give back, but they provide some other type of service or do something for our community that is very beneficial. And by taxing them, I don't know if that's really going to be able to continue to help give them that or allow them to continue to provide those benefits, especially after we went through a time like we did with COVID. Now again, the Valley as a whole did phenomenal. And I mean, I really want to applaud everybody that was in a position that had to more or less push back for us to stop us from closing. Because I will say we definitely stayed open. That again, I think what we just need to look at is, are some of these nonprofits really nonprofits, and start weeding those ones out more so.
Did anybody else want to answer that?
Oh, I get stuck with the microphone.
First, thank you all for choosing to run. So obviously you're aware that in the state right now and in the nation, the labor market is tough. And we have this wonderful cost of living going up by about 8.5% per year. So how is your city going to be able to maintain competitive salaries for its people in this inflation adjusted world and to be able to maintain services at the same level? Do you think you'd be able to do that by either changing your tax structure, or do you have enough flex in your budget, enough, I hate to call it waste, but enough unneeded services in your budget that you could make that work? Thank you.
I must be mistaken. The president said that inflation's under control, so I'm not sure what we're talking about.
Answers that question.
What inflation?
So, yeah, that's been top conversation for many council meetings, especially with the police department we have in Palmer. And it's difficult being a small town, being able to match salaries, especially when you have a behemoth like Anchorage that can put a lot of money towards salaries for various positions. And, you know, oftentimes here in the valley, we just can't match it. And so one of the things that we'd like to focus on is maintaining kind of the, you know, the niceties of working for a small government that employees can get. For a lot of people, it's not just about the money, and we really need to embrace that. I've been dealing with labor shortage issues for a long time. I get asked every day by clients, do you know anyone looking for, especially for reception positions? Everybody wants, you know, a new person, and it's just impossible to find people. And you know, and the cost of living thing is difficult. I know we all feel it. I mean, getting groceries is way more expensive. Gas is way more expensive. And it is one of those things where luckily we do have some flex in our city budget to be able to have higher salaries. And we did a little bit of a salary bump not that long ago. I think it was like one of the first meetings I was there. It's one of those things where it's going to be an issue for a little while because inflation doesn't just stop on a dime. But luckily right now we have enough flex, but you know, if it keeps going up, we will probably have to look at either making some cuts here or there, or you know, I definitely don't want to raise our sales taxes. We already have 3%, and that's should be plenty. So we'll definitely have to look at ways that we can cut the fat and make the city even leaner.
At Wasilla, I know during budget time, we really, you know, dove into the wages, and the city, and I'm not quite sure how often, but we did send out all the salaries, and that's all the salaries, and have a comparison for other places that are doing the same time. And the city, probably Palmer's the same, you could have like your IT person who also, I don't know, changes the light bulbs, you know, it's small enough that people do a lot of different things. Yeah.
Other cities as a sign from time to time.
Yes, and so it was kind of hard to compare job descriptions and salaries, and so we did send that away and got that feedback, and we did make some changes because we do want to, you know, keep our police force. You know, we have people going to Anchorage, you know, they can make better money there. But, you know, they don't have to commute, you know, like he said, nice small town feel. And so we've been pretty fortunate in keeping our police force. We've had retirements and such, but yeah. Anyway, we do look at that, and we made some changes, and then budget came along and we budgeted for higher salaries where we weren't paying people enough and such, and we didn't have to increase sales tax either.
As an IT person, I don't want to change light bulbs though. I should have grabbed a mic.
Hi. I'm concerned about regarding nationally the border crossings. And have you seen any of these people that are crossing illegally up in our area? And if so, what is our response to that? And also, could you comment about our Second Amendment rights and what we as just individuals can do to help this whole situation nationally?
Yeah, thank you. I don't think I've noticed any of that in Palmer. We're mainly dealing with vagrancy. We have had some people come in from out of state, but I don't believe we've had any illegal immigration issues in our town. I mean, my response would be, you got to follow the law, and if we are dealing with that, then we need to get immigration involved to handle it, take care of it. And with second part, did you say, was it Second Amendment? Is that what you said? Okay. Yeah, and I think that's, second, I mean, we all have several guns, Second Amendment rights are very important. I always think that, hopefully we never need to use a weapon, but there are times when people have to. And I think it's important that we respect that right and don't infringe on it, because what the government defines as like an assault rifle, or when they say, well, that's one bullet too many, I mean, where does it end? So we have to make sure that we protect that right as well as all the other rights that we have, because they're all very important, and you don't really know you need it until it's needed. And if we give up on that ground, there was going to be a day when we really need to have that Second Amendment, and it's going to be gone. And so we have to make sure that we protect it.
I don't know what's going on.
On the national level? Oh, on the state level? I haven't heard anything about it. I know obviously on the national level it comes up for debate quite a bit, but I haven't heard anything about the state level. My understanding is that the state representatives understand that we live in a place where there's a lot of bears and things like that, so we need to make sure that we can, have protection.
Yeah, so just real quickly, we will have, we do have our delegation, some of our delegation members here, and so we will have some time for them to speak to you, and maybe perhaps you can ask some questions of them. But we'll continue with the candidates for the municipal.
So this is to both Wasilla and Palmer. We live in the valley because it's the valley. It's not Anchorage, but Anchorage is moving to the valley. So are you going to help us keep the valley and not become another Anchorage? Because that's a huge fear of mine. We live here because of what it is, not because we want to live in a big city, and we don't want them trying to change us into them.
I won't make you start this time. I love it when you say that, because that's partly why I wanted to run, was I wanted to keep the valley and the way we are. I think one of the biggest things that the borough has done that actually helps keep it that way, and it sometimes it scared me at first whenever it came down the line, was the term limits for our assembly members. And at first I thought, why would we do that? Because now we have these great assembly members, and now they're going to term out at some point. And it goes, we have to now proactively be looking at the next generation. How proactive do we have to be now to raise up the next generation to, I hate to use the word instill our values, but make sure that they're raised correctly, so that whenever it's their turn, when our time is up and our term is passed, that we can pass this baton and safely know that this next generation is going to keep it the same way we can. I don't see any other way around it other than that. So again, term limits might be an option for, I know Wasilla City Council, we have a term limit in the essence that, again, you have to take a break after 2 full terms in a row, but we don't have the full term limit like the borough just put in place.
I actually have a day job. I work on base, and I'm always giving the Anchorage people that work there a hard time about being city people. But it's one of those things that I think in the last couple of years, a lot of Anchorage has discovered how nice the valley is, and that we are more the norm of what Alaska is, as opposed to that place south of us.
Yeah, I've got a question. As far as Wasilla, the way I feel about it, they can go to hell. My wife and I go up to Wassy and have lunch,
And I got a written statement from a man that watched a pickup back in and cave in the driver's side door of the rig. And I went to the police department, your Taj Mahal up there, and they said we can't do anything about it because it's on private property. What the hell is private property? Everything is private property. And I said, well, the person wants to pay for it out of her own pocket, but she don't have insurance, she don't have a driver's license. And they said, well, you don't need one to drive in private property. What's the definition of private property? The borough has got a road through our development. What is private property? I pay taxes on half of that road. Is that private property?
Thank you. So I just want to remind everybody to, I don't want to impede on your right to ask questions, but I just will ask you to be respectful. We do work very, very closely with the city of Wasilla, and they're very dear friends of ours. So what was the question?
The question is, what's the purpose of the police department if they won't write an accident report? They won't do nothing. They said, having on private property, we got no jurisdiction. She can drive there without a driver's license, without insurance, and we can't do nothing about it. That's state law she's breaking.
Okay. Okay. So so maybe perhaps there's a. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. So I know not with Wasilla here, but yeah, I mean I know the Wasilla PD worked really hard, and you know we're kind of dealing with a lot of issues going on. We actually had a similar thing where my wife was rear-ended in her car not that long ago, and we were kind of shocked. The police were like, they kind of did a really quick thing, and they were like, here you go, it's done. And we were expecting more of a police report, but they just aren't doing that. I think a lot of that is because the police are understaffed. There's a lot of petty crime going on in the communities, both in Wasilla and Palmer, they're dealing with, and I totally understand the frustration. That is very irritating, especially when someone is blatantly breaking the law. It's difficult to deal with that, and having a response that was underwhelming is very frustrating. So I completely understand. I think a big part of it is we need to have better funded police departments. Something that we've been dealing with a lot in Palmer is that our police department is understaffed, has been for a while. So we're working very hard to work with the chief of police and work with the city council to increase that budget, because that's going to further help improve the police to make sure that laws are enforced.
One thing too that I just want to remind everybody real quickly on that issue, because I know that we deal with it as well, but unfortunately we have a judicial system that doesn't allow us to keep or convict or to even issue a fine. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done with our judicial system as well in order to have a real impact. So
Yeah.
just bear that in mind.
We live in Redwood, just driving in town. It's very rare that we don't see a person running the red light and not stopping the stop sign. What the hell's the purpose of them if they don't do nothing?
Understood. Understood. I think that's great feedback to take back to your council. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I want to personally thank you guys for coming out and having a very healthy and constructive conversation. And we certainly do appreciate you. And I know that there probably will be more questions, and perhaps you can talk with the attendees here about how they can help with your campaigns, or where they can get further information to help support you. Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, everybody, remember, like, share. See you
Okay.
guys all later.
So we have got our MatSu delegation here, and I think we should probably go ahead and see if we have some updates. How about if we start with Mayor Ledford?